Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Woodburn Accountants and Advisors presentation on choosing your registered office address in China. To begin today's presentation, allow me to introduce who we are. Woodburn Accountants and Advisors is specialized in inbound investment to China and Hong Kong. We offer companies a one-stop shop approach to their corporate services needs. We offer market entry advisory, ongoing corporate accounting, tax, and human resource services. Our clients are international companies focused on inbound Asia investments. The strategy of many of these clients is on manufacturing in China, exporting from China, selling to China, and offering a variety of services within China. They range from startup organizations to small, medium-sized companies, all the way up to multinationals and publicly listed entities. We recognize that each company has its short and long-term strategy when entering the Chinese market. As an international and multidisciplinary consulting firm, we have instilled a culture and work ethic of personal service to our clients. As such, our mission is to provide quality, tailor-made services and solutions to each company in conjunction with value for money. We speak a variety of European languages and local Chinese dialects to help clients communicate transparently and more easily when entering and operating in the market. Our strength is that we can be the link between your new team in China, your team in the headquarters, and our local network of partners that can provide additional added value services. The topic for today is choosing your registered office address. As part of your market research and business plan, finding the right location is a key component. Understanding where you want to establish your first company in China is key to your success. There are several key issues that one needs to look at when investigating cities and districts within cities, such as looking at the legal and tax issues, infrastructure, property levels, hiring capabilities, industrial clusters, your own network of suppliers and customers, relocation policies, all just to name a few. Now, research for most of this information can be conducted via internet searches, social media outlets, talking to people at local trade shows, local networking events, or even having people on the ground investigating and doing their due diligence. However, there is nothing like working with a professional real estate agent when choosing your registered office address, particularly as they can offer the service of location searches and providing a comparative study allowing you to analyze each city independently. The real estate agents can also provide you with information needed to help your long-term strategy in terms of rental prices, lease agreements, expansion capabilities, etc. Now, as you can see from today's agenda, we're going to be covering quite a few topics. So let's begin. The new free trade zones. In 2013, the State Council mapped out plans to implement a series of negative lists for market access as part of the government's efforts to establish an open, competitive, and well-regulated China market. Now, this was first tried and tested in the new free trade zone in Shanghai, but has since expanded to Tianjin, Fujian, Guangdong, and other provinces. The pilot was a major step towards the government's aim to explore a system that could be replicated nationwide for application in early 2018. So now, as part of the efforts to streamline government administration and give more freedom to the market. It's important to understand what the negative list is. The negative list lists out industries, fields, and businesses from which investments are barred or limited for foreign investors. The market access for foreign investors, therefore, can have equal access to industries, fields, and businesses that are not on the list. For the prohibited entry list, foreign investors will not be approved to get access to such industries by the administrative authority, whereas for limited entry, market players will have to apply for access, which will then be which then will be assessed by the authorities and then meet the requirements laid out by the government. For prohibited industries, most foreign investors look at establishing a joint venture construct. It is important to bear in mind that many of the policies already initiated in the zone have already been rolled out to the rest of the country, and this trend is likely to continue, particularly within 2018, meaning that the advantages of being in the free trade zones are limited and need to be explored in depth for each company looking to enter the market. Now, if you are looking to manufacture in China, China is still one of the most rapidly growing countries in the world, and when it comes to manufacturing, it reigns supreme. Much of China's manufacturing can be consolidated into 5 major metroplexes. Shanghai is one of the most important economic, financial, trade, and shipping locales in China today. This is due to its incredible rapid development of industry over the last 30 years. Shanghai is responsible for the manufacturing of communication equipment, automobiles, electronics, steel products, petrochemicals, biomedicines, etc. In the neighboring cities such as Ningbo and Hangzhou, which is linked to Shanghai by the Hangzhou Bay Bridge and the high-speed rail, there's a lot of heavy manufacturing of consumer and commercial goods. Following Shanghai is Beijing, another leading city in China that is largely focused on manufacturing pharmaceuticals and electronics. It really is one of the leaders in bioengineering and information technology. Beijing holds its industrial power due to its neighboring sister city, Tianjin, which it can be reached to within 30-35 minutes, also by high-speed rail. Tianjin is a manufacturing giant. The city is the leader in the aerospace and aviation sector, mobile phones, automobiles, and alternative energy products. Guangzhou in southern China is one of China's most prominent urban cities, and there are thousands of factories located throughout each of the city's manufacturing zones. And those factories manufacture everything from toothpicks to automobile parts. Then there's Shenzhen, the sister city of Guangzhou within Guangdong province, which is also known worldwide to be the electronics manufacturing hub of the world. Now, we can't talk about manufacturing without discussing a little bit about the Go West campaign. The Go West campaign is an incentive-focused program pushing foreign investors to set up and manufacture in the underdeveloped western regions of China. This includes Chongqing, Chengdu being the 2 biggest cities out west, but looking at also the provinces of Gansu, Guangxi, Guizhou, Inner Mongolia, Tibet, Xinjiang, Yunnan, to just name a few. The Go West campaign, in terms of incentives, offers lower tax rates, deals on lease agreements, etc. So now let's look at the legal and tax considerations. Now, as part of your research and business plan, it's important to understand the following considerations when registering your address in China. Definitely meet with a corporate service provider or a lawyer about all of the items I'm about to discuss. The first one is a registered office address is needed for any type of company registration. Now, a lease agreement for a commercial, retail, or industrial property must be signed, and documents from your landlord must be provided to the COC and the AIC. A residential lease agreement will not be permitted by authorities, and most people that are planning on establishing a representative office believe that a residential lease agreement is permitted. It's not. In any form of entity and in any form of sector or any form of business scope, you need to have a commercial lease agreement, whether that's a factory space, a retail space, or commercial office building. Virtual office addresses are illegal and should be avoided. Now, in most other jurisdictions outside of China, for example, in Hong Kong, you can register as many companies as you like in one office address. The rule in China is that one company can be registered in one address, and there has to be a physical address, a room with 4 walls. Now, if you decide to use this option of having a virtual office, where there are these solutions available, which I'm telling you now are illegal to utilize, but they obviously exist, then problems may occur later when site visits are conducted by certain government bodies. For example, during the initial registration inspection, or approval processes from the State Administration of Taxation, or just general spot checks that can occur. Currently, most government bodies are quite relaxed about this, but there is no guarantee at all that your company will not be targeted or just simply picked out of a lottery for inspection. So be wary of this. A 1-year lease agreement must be signed. Any agreement shorter than this will be denied during the actual application process of your company. As soon as you sign the lease agreement, use it for the registration process. Delaying the company registration process may cause the government bodies, such as the COC or AIC, to reject the lease agreement. An example is if you delay the process by 6 months and there's only 6 months remaining on the lease, then the COC or AIC may ask you to re-sign the agreement accordingly. So it is 1 year old from the date of the document submission to the government bodies for the application of your company. The type of property is of utmost importance as it indicates your entity choice. Now, commercial property is utilized for a representative office, consulting company, or even trading company. A retail property is utilized to establish a retail trading company, a shop. Industrial properties would fall under warehousing facilities, manufacturing plants, logistics companies, and these properties would need to reflect the business scope of your future company. The key is really remembering that unlike other jurisdictions, only one company can be registered in one registered office space, an office space that has 4 walls. For small startups, we recommend contacting business centers in the city where you are planning on establishing your company to see whether they can offer any small and value for money office spaces. Some business centers or workspaces even offer a for registration purpose only address, which is a 1-person workstation approximately 3 to 4 square meters in size. It has 4 walls, and it offers you this solution for the interim period as you're starting to build up your business. You're suddenly realizing that the location you've chosen is not a success for your business, and now you wish to change cities. And you've got to imagine this happens more often than not. You wish to move your company located in City A to City B. And unfortunately, this is impossible in China. You can't just relocate your company. The reason is because each city has its own governmental authority, and as such, moving from one city to another is bypassing the authority level of that government office. So there are 2 solutions available. The first is registering a new company in City B, transferring all the assets and the staff, followed by liquidating the company in City A. Or alternatively, the second is keeping the original company in City A and registering a branch company in City B. Definitely talk to a lawyer or corporate service provider to guide you with this process and making sure that ultimately you are achieving your objectives. Ultimately, in terms of legal considerations, choose your city wisely, do your research, don't rush into the process. Think about your short and long-term objectives with your business. Let's look at the tax consideration. Now, each city in China is made up of districts. When you choose an office space, remember that you are registering your company in that city within that district. Each district has its own local government office, some of which are more liberal than others. The keynote here, though, is that each district has its own tax bureau. When you register your company in a certain district, you are automatically registering with that district tax bureau. Tax incentives may be offered by the state or local government within that city you've chosen, or even within that district of the city that you've chosen. The government is looking to attract specific industries, particularly high tech, environmental, research and development, etc. It is our recommendation to understand what these tax incentives are, what are the specific criteria to be fulfilled in order to be able to apply and then be granted success, in order to determine whether ultimately choosing that registered office address is to your benefit or not. Again, from a tax perspective, should you wish to change office space and move to a new district in the future, understand the tax consequences. So from a legal perspective, we've looked at moving from city to city. Now, in the tax considerations aspect, we're looking at what happens if you want to move from district to district. So let's say you have chosen an office space in Jing'an district in Shanghai. You want to now move to Huangpu district in Shanghai because you're planning on expanding, you need a bigger office space, you haven't found anything in Jing'an district that's of value for money, but you have found something in Huangpu district. Keep in mind the following. You will need to perform a closure audit with the old tax bureau and reapply with the new tax bureau. And depending on your business, particularly if you're doing any form of domestic sales for goods and services, this can result in a halt of your business, as you would not be able to purchase official invoices, called fapiaos, from either the old or the new tax bureau until the audit and reapplication are completed. And generally, this process can take a minimum of 3 months, which ultimately means 3 months of halting your business. Do I need to consider an offshore holding company? Now, as I mentioned in my previous presentation on setting up a business in China, there are many foreign investors who feel that their liability is a little bit too high for the shareholding company, and as a result, they want to insert a holding company between the Chinese company and the parent company. Hong Kong or Singapore are usually the most common jurisdictions used by foreign investors to establish an offshore holding company for investment into the Chinese market. They are the two best jurisdictions from which a solid base can be created to access China as well as the rest of Asia. The purpose of a holding company is to act as a buffer between the ultimate beneficiary and the Chinese company, which could be beneficial for taxation, profit repatriation, and liability purposes. However, there is a risk that the business can be deemed liable for taxes in China if the reduced tax rate based on the double taxation agreements, offshore holding companies with no commercial or economic substance can be excluded from the reduced withholding tax rate. An investor that has structured an equity interest in a mainland Chinese company through an offshore holding company could, if the investor sells the interest, be subject to an additional tax burden within China. Or if the State Administration of Taxation deems an offshore company's day-to-day management to be in mainland China, the offshore company may be subject to profits tax in mainland China. Offshore company residence can only be achieved if the offshore directors, wherever they are located, are permitted to exercise effective management of that company. Additionally, there's a risk from the offshore holding jurisdiction in that many banks today are unwilling to approve corporate bank account applications if the offshore company is purely utilized for holding purposes. The banks really want to see that these entities have commercial and economic substance within them. It is therefore recommended and advised that when establishing an offshore holding company, if you really see the benefits that it's going to grant you, make sure that it is operational. Get advice from a corporate service provider, from a tax advisor, from a lawyer, in order to be able to understand how to create this type of structure so that it is operational and can be used to your benefit. Is Hong Kong a better option than China? This is something that I get asked all the time, particularly for companies that are new market entrants. You know, the first question you've got to ask yourself is China even the right location for you now? Is Hong Kong a better alternative for you now? In general, Hong Kong is a better location to register a company versus mainland China. However, it really depends on your business model, whether Hong Kong is a benefit to you also in the long term. You have to analyze your overall business model, your long and short-term objectives. Look at your competition. What are they doing? Look at the resources you have. Where do they need to be placed? Where are your suppliers? Where are your customers? What is your financial status? What is the legal, tax, and compliance requirements in either of these jurisdictions? Compare the two jurisdictions against these components and see how it affects your overall business model. The consensus will probably show that doing business in Hong Kong is far easier and has certain advantages from a legal, tax, and compliance perspective. However, Hong Kong is a distinct commercial jurisdiction with a different legislation, legal system, and currency from mainland China. It is two countries, one system. But the two countries are still very independent from each other. A big critical point for most foreign investors will be the fact that you cannot hire local mainland Chinese staff to work for you in mainland China under a Hong Kong company. It's just legally not feasible. You cannot issue sales invoices, Chinese sales invoices, fapiaos, from a Hong Kong company. Mainland Chinese tax authorities won't recognize them. If you are spending most of your time or the employee's time sitting in China conducting the business and you're spending costs on hotels and transportation, then you need to reconsider whether Hong Kong is an actual benefit to you. Perhaps in the initial short-term phase, it is. And in the long-term phase, an actual establishment is needed in the Chinese market. This all depends on how you're creating your business plan. Let's look at the conclusion for today. Now, it is every real estate agent's mantra, right? Location, location, location. This is the key to success. We've certainly heard the phrase enough, and you have to wonder why real estate agents say it 3 times. Choosing a location for a new business venture, especially in a country as large as China, is one of the most important decisions that a new entrepreneur to the market has to make during the planning phase of the China venture. The location of your business can truly affect many aspects of your operation. How is it going to operate? Will it affect total sales? Will it affect customer retention? What about talent acquisition and retention? How costly is it going to run? Is it going to be to run and maintain this business from this location? And naturally, what are the legal and tax consequences? Don't rush the decision process. Choose your city wisely. Make comparisons. The best recommendation I can make for you is to meet with a real estate agent locally, discuss your lease objectives, your company's goals, your financial budget, to really determine what is the right location for your business. Follow this up with meeting with a corporate service provider and or legal professional in order to make sure you understand the tax and legal consequences of choosing such a location. Well, that's the end of today's presentation. I hope I was able to provide you with some insights into choosing your registered office address in China. If you do have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me at info@woodburnglobal.com. Alternatively, you can find us on our website at woodburnglobal.com, and you can contact us through that page. If you are interested in hearing more about the latest legal, tax, and trade news or some advisory on different aspects of setting up and maintaining your operations in China and Hong Kong, then do subscribe to our e-newsletters. This is free of charge. You can do this on our homepage at woodburnglobal.com. Alternatively, you can also follow us on social media through our LinkedIn page and our Twitter page. I want to thank you all for joining us and for listening in, and I wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you and goodbye.